So what I am trying to convey with these words, just that we are spread across Kashmir, and when once we were flood hit. It was not only Srinagar. There were many other districts which were involved, but there were many other districts which were not involved. So holistically, we have to see what we had done or what we had to do. Every district was involved somehow. Once we had to prepare things and what we had to do. So what we thought, it started in session range started on first. We could understand that things are not normal this time by second or third. There was a meeting with DUCOM on third. I met Sonam Notice on third evening. I just asked him, what is your idea? ये बारिशें कब तक रहेंगी? He said at least till 6th, with a break of 10 or 15 minutes in between, nothing less more than that, but it is going to be continuous rainfall. Same day evening, I came to my office around 6:30. I issued a circular to entire health fraternity across Kashmir, which includes all CMOs, medical superintendents and BMOs. There are 12 CMOs, 12 medical superintendents and around 66 BMOs. That means across Kashmir. One thing I told them, because we have already prepared. Sometimes it looks like, is it really a fact that we had prepared so much in advance? But it was not only for floods we had prepared. We have prepared ourselves for earthquakes also, and we are prepared for any disaster in Kashmir. So we have rapid response teams across Kashmir. So we issued a circular that we are anticipating floods this time. Things are not normal. All superintendents, all CMOs and BMOs are directed not to leave the station. That was very important. One thing is, once the CMO and medical student is stationed, it doesn't mean that other times they don't stay. But many times they don't stay. Then reprimanding them and other things, that comes secondary. But we want to preempt things. So we made medical students and CMOs and BMOs to be stationed. And we cancelled all the leave. I told them nobody is allowed to go on leave. And on 4th and 5th, what we did, we called all CMOs and BMOs that whether they are on station or not. And we could find that 5 people were not on station, and we made it possible that they are on station. They are there at the place. And how it helped. So once CMO is there, so automatically what happens? All doctors around, they will be stationed, because now the boss is there. So automatically doctors and paramedics, they will be stationed there. 4th and 5th, we made it sure that nobody goes out of the system. 5th, on 5th of September, I went on air through Doordarshan. I gave an advisory to the people in case of excess water or in case of floods, what are do's and what are don'ts, what we should do and what we should not do. And 6th morning, every paper we had issued advisory through print media across Kashmir that what Directorate of Health expects people to do during this time. That was on, and the 7th night when it happened, what happened? All my hospitals were marooned now, almost major hospitals. It was Bone and Joint, it was Laldet, it was GB Pan, it was SMHS. You can imagine they are all specialized hospitals. Immediately, all my peripheral hospitals had to take the command now. They have to take care of every patient. Now, what will happen if I don't have doctors available in my peripheries? My superintendent was not already available there. Even if we intend to provide better services to people, we cannot provide. Question is, I cannot transport doctors to the hospital. For example, can I send a doctor from Srinagar to Pulwama, Badgam, Ganderbal, any place? No, it was not possible. So the only thing was that whether they were already there or not. So they were already present. Number 2, if now the patients cannot, same vice versa, patients cannot come to these hospitals, whether hospitals are marooned or whether hospitals are submerged or not, they cannot come. So automatically they will go to Pulwama, they will go to Badgam, or they will go to Baramulla. So what happens? So doctors are not there. If doctors were not there, so excess patients cannot be taken care. So what will happen? Catastrophic stage would have been there. So they were there and they were able to take care of things. I have example of some doctors, their houses were submerged, but they were not able to come, and they consciously did not come. I can name one doctor, one Ejaz at Pulwama. His mother was cancer patient. He told CMO, she's a cancer patient, please shift her to attic. But I will stay in the hospital in Pulwama. So when you were Bone and Joint, just imagine Bone and Joint hospital जो सिर्फ specialized tertiary care provide करता है Bone and Joint की. Did you hear anything from press or from anybody that we have not been able to take care of entire Bone and Joint issues across Kashmir? We did one surgery. It was colostomy was done at District Hospital Pulwama. uh, left bundle branch block. Patient was cardiac compromised. Superintendent is calling me what to do. मैंने कहा just tell me. I just asked him one thing. What do you want? उन्होंने कहा सर हम नहीं कर सकते. मैंने कहा फिर क्या करोगे? इसको रेफर करोगे, रास्ते में मार दोगे? मतलब if you, because he will not reach, patient will not reach to Srinagar in any case. So what मैंने कहा are you capable? उसने कहा मैं सर मैं capable हूँ but risk is much. मतलब go ahead. And he did it and patient survived. That I had a doctor that one at Ganderbal Hospital. Whatever I tell you, I'm open to questions. Please, sometimes it looks a fairy tale story, like what is telling, it may not be a real thing. Please ask me questions. If I am not able to substantiate anything, please come to me. One lady doctor at Ganderbal Hospital, वो इतनी exhaust हो गई, third day, she fainted inside theater. I am naming the hospital, I am naming the person. She was a gynecologist. One anesthetist at Baramulla. He had almost cardiac arrest. He was kept in the ICU over there, which we have made, and other things were done, and he has epistaxis, he had everything which could lead to death, and we don't know how my anesthetists and other doctors could save him. So I'm telling few of the examples. There are so many, but I don't want to waste time on this. But what I'm trying, how we managed, how we kept the doctors before floods had happened, that is why we were there when otherwise your 4,000 patients are in these 4 hospitals across Kashmir, in Kashmir city. So where those patients have gone? And did you hear patients start dying because there was no tertiary care available in the city and patients start dying in the field? No, I am not trying to gain points. What I am trying to tell, I may learn something from my counterpart from CTP, like town planner, or from municipality. There might be good examples, and it might help us to build up in future. And because we are in such a vulnerable area in Kashmir, where even earthquakes we are prone to them. So let us be proactive in future also. And if something has been done, it is not credit to director per se. It is credit to entire health department, entire paramedics. One more example, Pampur, one paramedic, complete घर, 2 story घर था उसका, पूरा पानी में था और वो हॉस्पिटल में काम कर रहा था. मतलब I am naming people straight away so that it can be substantiated. So this was what happened during that time. Or immediately once it started, everybody started telling now there is going to be enormous epidemics, which is a normal, which is a rule, which happens. But there are 2 ways. Number 1, our preventive measures helped. Number 1. Number 2, people, youngsters, they did a lot of good job in communicating things and distributing things. And number 3, the most of which people are forgetting, Kashmiris by nature are very health conscious. That helped. If somebody tells me that epidemics were stopped just because we did something, it was not purely that. It was definitely it was health department's preventive measures. But Kashmiris nature because what they took care of, they try to take boiled water, most of them. It looks a very small message. I was just reading today only in the morning. आपके सिर्फ hand washing practice से ना we reduce child mortality में ना major mortality होती है upper respiratory tract infection और diarrheal diseases. If one activity, hand washing properly managed की जाए तो it gives safety to 47% of what deaths it will be reduced. What I am trying to say कि there were apprehensions there is going to be catastrophe and all that. So nothing of the sort happened. How we manage it, every day we would give a press release to all the press, whether it is print or electronic media. On the base, what we did, we established a crisis management center. अगर किसी student को, if they really want to update themselves कि how to develop a crisis management center, if there are people from, you would not have seen across country, anybody has built up such level of crisis management center. It is working exactly on science, evidence-based, how that crisis management center is working. We were getting data, and which date I had established my first camp on 9th at Rambagh, 9th of September. 7th we were not out. 8th and 9th evening we started, and then it started increasing every day. This is now I have come. What we did during the floods now. We started our first camp at that place. We immediately established crisis management center. Where what we did, सबसे पहले हमने वहाँ सारे epidemiologists को स्टेशन किया, because they trained in understanding the nature of the diseases and epidemics. So what we did, we got the data of 3 years. Epidemics में हमें एक चीज बहुत जरूरी देखनी है कि इस टाइप के epidemics में कि what are the types of epidemics we are going to face. Like अगर हम standard protocol लेंगे तो हम dengue भी इसमें रख लेंगे, malaria भी रख लेंगे, but we understood that malaria and dengue इसमें हमारा human resource waste हो जाएगा. There is no reason having all. So we identified diarrheal disease, upper respiratory tract infection, fever, jaundice, and one more, measles. These are the 5 things which we are apprehending can happen there. So what we did, we got the data of all 5 years, 3 years, and we displayed it at our control room. Then we are present, what I was telling that we are present across Kashmir. So we are getting data every day, evening started getting data. But mostly from the initial days, mostly from the flood affected areas, from those camps, from those sub-centers, from those PICs, from those district hospitals. We used to get the data and we started comparing these 5 diseases, these 5 indicators with the previous year, previous month of the same time. So that we'll compare whether there is something extra, whether something unusual occurrences there. So once we are comparing, nothing unusual was proved, nothing. But it was based on evidence. We were not telling that there are cases. You know what we did? Even rumors we believed. Even rumors, even some sincere suggestions, because they were, for example, first day, we got a call that Chak Bandpura, there is a cholera case. We knew it, though it is not. But we went there in the evening, we went next day morning also. Confirmed it is not cholera and conveyed to the public, though it is not cholera. Next day, we got at Rajbagh mein 60 cases of diarrheal disease. Immediately, within our response time was 30 minutes. 30 minutes में हमारी टीम वहां पहुंची and we could see that there were only 3 cases of diarrhea. They were not clusters. They were not from that area. One was from Olachi Bagh, one was from Badshahi Bagh, and one was from there. So, and we conveyed, no, it is nothing like acute diarrheal disease, or there are no clustering of cases. We got a message that there are 60 cases of upper respiratory tract infection. No, 150 cases from Sanat Nagar camp. Our team reached in 20 minutes. Confirmed there were no case of upper respiratory tract infection. No upper respiratory tract infection. It was a wrong reporting or wrong messaging by somebody. So this, but how we were developing it from that crisis management room. Anybody who is here is welcome to see that how we are working every day on that crisis management room. We got one information that there are measles cases from Chhatabal. We went there. Confirm how we used to get this information. We had developed a P form. P form में हमारे पास total OPD कितने देखते थे वो, उसमें इन 5 डिजीज के लोग कितने थे, तो उस पे हम रिएक्ट करते थे. We went back, we checked कि वहां पे जब हमने देखा कोई केस ही नहीं है, हम मस्जिद में गए, मस्जिद में ऐलान किया कि कल जिन लोगों ने ये कहा था यहाँ पे कि हमें यहाँ पे रैशेस निकले हैं वो प्लीज बाहर आ जाए, तो कोई बच्चा बाहर नहीं आया. We got hold of that doctor who had reported to us. That doctor was an ISM doctor. We told her, please let us know where are those 5 cases. There was not a single case of measles. So this is how we reacted. Informing public day-to-day basis. पहले काफी दिनों तक हमने उनको ये ना अखबारों में, टीवी में, रेडियो में सबको हमने कन्वे करने की, लेकिन बाद में हमने थोड़ा कम इसलिए कि let me not give the मतलब ओवर इंफॉर्मेशन जिसकी कोई यूटिलिटी नहीं हो. सिर्फ बीच में एक चीज बोलना चाहूंगा. 4th and 5th को वन मोर थिंग वी डिड. जब वहां ज्यादा फ्लड्स हुए, आई शिफ्टेड माई ड्रग स्टोर्स टू बिमना ओवरनाइट. 4 तारीख को रात को 2:30 बजे हमने ड्रग स्टोर शिफ्ट किया. 5 तारीख को सुबह किया. वी हैड वेरी costly equipment there. We saved them. Even computers were shifted to upstairs. So that was prior. And during this time, we were doing it regularly, just monitoring the data, managing data until date. अभी तक उसके बाद हमने ये भी किया कि we have NGOs distributed chlorine tablets. Everybody, government distributed, PHE department did it, municipality did it. So at the same time, what we are doing, we were also doing chlorination. That was part of our crisis management center. We had doctors from Delhi also, public health specialists. We would go to the field. We'll do chlorination on random basis. We had picked up some hot spots. Hot spots means where we are apprehending. We were apprehending that at this place there are more chances of epidemic, so we had identified hot spots. So there we would go and do the chlorination. क्लोरोस्कोप से रेजिडुअल क्लोरीन देखते थे और फिर जाके we would get back to, I have written letter to municipality also, I have written letter to PHE department also, and I have not pinpointing, just helping them that you might have missed this area or you are not doing, so please take care of this. And next day when we do repeat checking over there, it was always found that action was taken. So things improved there also. That way also that things improved. This is the reason that we are safe till date. One more thing, during initial days when we were cut off, you may ask somebody that how the drugs were managed, everything was managed. We dropped by chopper drugs to all districts and sub-district hospitals. And initially we got doctors from Delhi also. We requested Government of India also for doctors, which we took by chopper to Kulgam, Anantnag, Pulwama, Bandipora. The purpose was because my doctors were getting exhausted now, and मुझे कोई नजर नहीं आ रहा था कि कोई अभी इतनी जल्दी में हमारे श्रीनगर के हॉस्पिटल शुरू हो जाएंगे, और अभी तक भी हम रेफरल पे जीरो रेफरल, इट वाज जीरो रेफरल. तो मैं चाह रहा था कि पेरिफेरल हॉस्पिटल्स को स्ट्रेंथन करूं. स्ट्रेंथन जरा इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं था, इंपॉर्टेंट था कि मैं अपने डॉक्टर को थोड़ा रिलीफ दूं, क्योंकि देयर इज लिमिट टू एवरीथिंग. तो अगर वो एक बार बैठ जाते तो उससे ये होता कि अल्टीमेटली पेशेंट वुड लैंड टू श्रीनगर, एंड देयर वाज नो वे दैट दे कुड कम टू श्रीनगर. सो ड्यूरिंग दिस टाइम देयर वाज जीरो रेफरल टू फॉर ऑल पेशेंट्स. दो वी स्ट्रेटेजिकली वर्कड. हमने कोल्ड केसेस बंद कर दिए, हमने कोल्ड केसेस को कम किया, हमने इमरजेंसी केसेस को ज्यादा डील करने शुरू कर दिया. तो देन वी स्ट्रेटजाइज, और हमारी स्ट्रेटजी ऐसे नहीं थी. बाय द वे, वी हैड टेकन ऑन बोर्ड ऑल सीएमओज, बीएमओज एंड पीपल. वी हैड डिस्कस्ड एवरीथिंग विद देम बिफोर द फ्लड्स, एंड बिकॉज वी हैव रेगुलर, we had that, I don't want to go into detail now, that how they were able to cope up with all these things was because we had already conducted such trainings very regularly. That is why they did the job at that point of time. Rest I leave the it open to discussions. Any question?
Who is representing Action Aid International? Questions that are important for the government, the bureaucrats, the administration, as well as the students to consider some of the issues that I think that we need to reflect on, the policies that we are going, that the government is announcing, the policies that we feel that should have been there in place, which might have mitigated the impact, and also some of the issues that we need to take on timely basis to help people and support people who have suffered to overcome this impact. So almost something 15 to 20% villages were affected by the floods. So now if you add Srinagar to this, so this proportion is certainly going to increase because Srinagar was mostly damaged. The damage has, so in the villages which are affected, so damage has been almost that if you count in terms of the fully damaged households and partially damaged houses, it is almost likely going to come 30% of the households in these villages. So both in terms of partially and the fully damaged. So for an NGO like us, it becomes very difficult to really make a difference between a fully damaged house and partially damaged house, because it really needs a technical expertise. So now putting that together, so it is almost on 30%. The damage has also been very multidimensional. So it is not only on shelters, it is on livelihood, it is on food, access to food, it is on access to healthcare and hygiene, as well as access to education. As a result of this, so there are many issues that are coming out. So it's likely the abuses are going to increase, because if you have looked into that, how abuses of women, children actually increase. So because of lack of privacy, lack of shelter, lack of adequate housing, so abuses actually increase. So that is going to now come out. Child labor is likely going to increase. Psychosocial issues are going to come out, because people do not have access to their primary needs, and that there's a lot of stress, depression that is going to increase. And Kashmir has a history of conflict, and we know that the situation of mental health in Kashmir. So this is going to add to that. Out migration of labor is likely going to happen. So if you would have looked into data and also our personal experiences of living in villages, also in Kashmir. So I think till 1990s, there has been a lot of out migration of labor seasonally, especially in the winters. But in the last few years, that trend has actually declined, and there was actually in-migration of labor. So people from outside would come to Kashmir for their work. But because of the kind of impact and the time that the floods have occurred, so this is likely going to now increase in the out-migration. That is the census that we are getting from the field. The other important question that is especially the people, students who are here and the people who work in the academic faculty, is that the question of poverty is completely going to change, because this flood is going to have a long-term impact. The people like us who work at the field level, so we usually see this question is on very short-term basis. So abhi health nahi hai, abhi illness बढ़ रहा है, people do not have livelihood. But for the academicians, this is also important question to actually look also in a very wider perspective. People who lost their houses, so it is a minimum of 5 lakh rupees or 10 lakh rupees. People who lost their businesses, people who lost their land. So there are many villages where land has completely been eroded. So that is not actually fit for agriculture. So those families, they simply lost everything. So those maybe they had a better condition. They were not classified as a BPL population till now. But now because of the impact of the floods, those households are going to be poor. So the question is the poverty are going to take a new turn, and that we need to actually look and be prepared for that. What ActionAid did as an organization, we're an international organization, ActionAid has a base in Kashmir for the last 12 years. But our work has mostly been focused on the mental health, providing psychosocial support to people, and it's a very community-based model. Each year we reach to about 10,000 people through either providing livelihood support, counseling, awareness, hygiene, healthcare as well. So that's the each year phenomena. Almost we work in 100 villages. But I will focus simply on what we did in the initial phase. So we tried, actually that is what was the need was, we don't do any rescue work. Because rescue work is something that you need a lot of expertise, and you need to be equipped for that. What we did was we started with the relief work. So our first phase started by 20th of September only. We first started with the assessment, which I said we did a primary assessment in 295 villages. It was very quick. We finished that by 20th of September only. Then we devised our strategy, and we reached some of the areas which were hit, much more hit by the floods. And we reached 2,000 families with ration blankets and with healthcare. We also organized health camps in many villages, and 3,553 people have access to our health camps. They are provided consultations free, as well as the medical care, as well as the medicines. Yesterday only that actually we have started a couple of projects more. Baramulla, actually I just came from Baramulla only. So we have a project that we are going to support 2,100 families in Baramulla across 23 villages with relief, which includes ration kits for almost 1 month, blankets, solar lanterns, and also medical camps. But overall, in the next 1.5 months, we are going to target almost 5,000 families more with relief, and almost 5,000 people with the medical care. We are also starting two other things, because considering that the capacity that ActionAid had developed in Kashmir was we had a history of almost a decade history of working on mental health. So there was also a debate that has actually come out now in Kashmir in some circles, was that the levels of stress, depression may increase because the primary needs of people are not going to be met, and considering the people who are already stressed or burdened, or they were suffering from depression because of conflict and this. So this is something that is going to be other fallout in Kashmir. So as a NGO, I don't feel like 5,000 families are nothing. If I reach international NGOs working in Kashmir, so maybe you add up, maybe we'll reach to 20,000 families. But there are some of the things that we need to advocate for, which is some of the issues that I just want to flag out, so that maybe we could debate on those issues. As their houses especially, so they had a stored grain which is lost. They lost their livelihood because crop is completely damaged now. And there is that, is this food gap that is a new question now to Kashmir after post floods or something? This is already a question. For me, it is a very old question. For me, some look into that. The question of food security, if you look at, Kashmir has already a food deficit. It keeps fluctuating between 30% on the food aid that comes, food through PDS that comes from outside states. And considering the topography you have, that are landlocked. So this question, so people in Kashmir are anyways vulnerable to food insecurity. But what government is giving is on average of 35 kgs. So still if government gives a free ration, so you still have government gives only rice, but people also need pulses, people also need vegetables, people also need mustard oil, people need spice into those things as well. So it is what government is doing is very limited in a way that it is just rice, and it is not an entire food basket. So what just give free ration for 6 months, but also to look some, maybe a long-term solution. For me, what could be a long-term solution, and for all of you, maybe we could debate on that, is passing your food titles 65, I think 63% of population in India says that Jammu and Kashmir will be provided 7.51 tons of ration, 7.51 lakh tons of ration annually. Families in J&K are 21.2 lakh something families as per Census 2001. So this ration is sufficient to provide 35 kgs of food grains to each of these family, which is recorded as per the census 2001. And at rate in the media, it was a story that came in the Greater Kashmir that our state government. So at least two things should be done by the government of India for Jammu and Kashmir. One recommendation was that you at least cover that in that debate that you increase the entitlement, because by then this entitlement from 35 kgs to 5 kgs per family member. There are two things they recommended. Now, if you actually calculate what this all BP, let us keep 35 kgs. So this 7.51 lakh metric tons of ration, that is so these are the old questions. This question of food security, food insecurity is a very old question in Kashmir. But so this is actually the right time to push for that legislation. So rather than saying that we will give a ration for 4 months, 6 months, kuch mein to sailab aaye nahi, tabhi ration mila. Some villages are flooded, and you know that all the operational difficulties that government has actually presently right now, 500 affected villages, and also so still we are providing for 6 months ration only. But this Right to Food Act would actually provide ration to the family, provide ration to all the families. So this is important. So the second issue that is now coming from the field is also the question of livelihood. We need to look into many more livelihood schemes that government has. The question of illnesses are going to increase. So healthcare is government to actually strengthen its own system, not create an alternative machinery, but strengthen its own system to build up on the existing strengths and provide for people, for students, for maybe some other people like here from the government. I think also we need to push for the, as I said, for the sustainable solutions, then short-term savings, which should include Right to Food Act, strengthening this sort of engagement at the field level of the people to ensure that they are linked to these schemes. There is a lot of engagement that we need to develop a debate at the state level also, on the policy issues,
because of the special preference, but because of the fact that generally in the South Asian tradition, the age in itself is a sort of
after the floods that inundated Kashmir and destroyed most parts of it, most segments of it, there has also been a flood of ideas, flood of facts, flood of perceptions, flood of accusations that we have witnessed in the media ever since, and which continues. And there's also a flood of suggestions. I think it's very important to note that Institute of Kashmir Studies has taken note of this aspect, this contemporary disaster. Kashmir is not only about its history, about its culture. Kashmir is also its present. Kashmir is also its future. Kashmir is technology. Kashmir is economy. Kashmir is environment. So I appreciate the efforts of Professor Vani to broad base the scope and application of these young minds into newer, more contemporary, and more relevant aspects of Kashmir. And it could obviously, if you are in that mode, it could obviously not have escaped as great a tragedy as has struck Kashmir, which is going to be a watershed, a memory for all of you who are here from our own country, from our own state, our valley, and other states as well, other countries as well, SAARC countries. Kashmir is not important only for us, the residents of Kashmir. It's important for this whole country. It's important as well for most of the SAARC countries as well, because Kashmir Himalayas, Kashmir environment, Kashmir water, Kashmir rivers, they impact not just this valley, but they impact the entire region. So in that sense, I think this institution is eminently qualified to do a much more broad-based study of these floods, the causes, its impacts, and perhaps attempt to absorb, to funnel, to channel, to filtrate, and then actually come up with a compendium of doables in the light of suggestions that have come up recently in the wake of this flood. I think that would be a great intellectual and academic activity which could come out of this institute and which could perhaps define its future role, which could define its own personality, in addition to contributing to future safeties for this place. As Professor Gulwani Saab said, I've been part of the administration and now I have strayed into a world which is called politics, generally not held in very high esteem, but it is a necessary evil. You can't wish it away. I would mainly, though Wani Saab demarcated certain areas on which I might like, he would like me to speak, but I would keep myself away from criticizing, from entering into a blame game. I would mainly restrict myself to two things. One is the general tendency of self-flagellation, what Kashmiris have done to Kashmir, which is a very wild accusation we always make against ourselves. End of the day, it's Semas Gwana Suin Beniki. I think that conclusion is somewhat unfair. I think that's part of a political and psychological distortions that this place has undergone, that we ultimately blame ourselves, the individual Kashmir. I am one person who doesn't subscribe to that. Because what is it that our society is made of? It is made of individuals, but those individuals don't determine what this society should be. It is actually the institutions of that society that determine how this society is ultimately behaving with itself and with the rest of the world. The most accepted and the most established institution is government. Whether I run it or Junaid Saab runs it or Gulwani Saab runs it, anybody, it is ultimately the government that man has devised as an institution of safety, institution of security, institution of organization, institution of regulation, institution of enforcing law. It is in my opinion, a very unfair conclusion that Kashmiris and Kashmiris don't follow the rule. My position on that is that we have never enforced law. When we enforce it, as law, when we enforce it fairly, squarely, uniformly, there is no better law-abiding citizen than a Kashmiri. This I am saying in the context of what ultimately we have made of Kashmir by what everybody would have it in his back of his mind, the unplanned growth, the unplanned urbanization, the unplanned construction, as Iftikhar Saab said, the disproportionate constructions. It is because we have never, as an institution of government, been able to enforce law. That destruction is brought basically about by two things, three things actually. One is the individual greed of officers like me. Second is the capitulation of the state, its disappearance as a law enforcing agency. And third, the political interference in things that should have been left to the professionals. If you follow the growth of Srinagar in that context, you will understand how in a very planned way we have destructed this city. First, by violating the traditional wisdom of Kashmir. The traditional wisdom, what does it expect of us? If you are a villager, you would know. गांव में एक बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम होता था हमारे ज़माने में. I come from a rural background. Even if a person owned 100 canals of land, his point of reference would not be that land. His point of reference of his strength would be Emichas Purankinna. People would look for the Puran, the place, the safe place for having a house, not his land on which he cultivated paddy. Puran was a great reference point, which we unfortunately trivialized. Because, as I said, I had written it also at the cost of repetition, I say, because floods have historically created havoc in Kashmir. Sahlab, Timsazab Sahlab. This is what you convey this is what you use to convey the sense of a tragedy, a disaster. Timsazab Sahlab. Nar Logusna, Bunul Logusna, we are in a seismic zone, we are prone to fires, but we say Timsazab Sahlab. So that kind of a thing. Or the Sailab Nama, which is a permanent zener, perhaps in only Kashmiri language, Kashmiri poetry. So, my point is that when we went into this mode of expanding Srinagar, we altogether dumped this idea of having safe places to build. All Kashmir capitals in the capitals of the Yor had been built on raised places. Even in Srinagar, the capital of Ashok, the capital of Zainul Abidin, the capital of Sultan Shahabuddin, the capital of all other sultans that escaped even Maharaja Hari Singhs, even Afghans that escaped this flood. The capitals made by Awami Sarkars, because we had broken that tradition. And I don't want to go into the details of it, but it's a fact that we actually are still converting water bodies into solid places by breaking down mountains, by breaking down hillocks, bringing them in the trucks and tippers, filling up the bodies and providing housing colonies. What else do we expect? It is not who Naeem Akhtar or Seher Iqbal or Salim Rahman is doing as an individual. This is the state that is doing it. The state should have known better. So when it comes to the accusation against me as an individual Kashmiri ke nazinasun manan konun unun ke, I have just one example to quote. In 2003, when there was this beautification program, people accused the government at that time of giving a what touch, healing touch was converted sarcastically into some other touch. But it converted itself into a people's movement. I am a witness how people pulled down their own houses in Pampur, in Maharaj Bazar, in Kulgam, in Anantnag, in Baramulla, everywhere. And there was no resistance to it. Because you wanted to do a good thing. You conveyed a good message to the people that there is a state, there is a government that means business and that is asserting its own rights, that is asserting its own duties. Then there was this electricity problem. Bijli would always be stolen. It continues to be stolen, unfortunately. But when a government decided that no, we have to install meters, it did install meters. It gave an incentive. It told them that like a basti there is, like mine, we'll give you an uninterrupted power supply if you install meters. They did their thing, I did my thing, I installed, I wrote to the engineer, kindly do it. If you want to do it tomorrow, kindly do it today. Then there was this small, very small actions which give an indication of the people ready to be part of a system that's fair and that tries to enforce some discipline. Your entry fee into the gardens, the parks. There was a lot of land there on that. Seher's dad, he was part of that decision. Many people almost said that this government could go if you ask people to pay fee. Vanchana Ziman Park Mansti Ijazat Gasnas Nishad Bagh Jirutova Khaband. Inajaz pay ye government. But nothing of that sort happened. Similarly, when you imposed an entry fee for going into the hospitals, that money was supposed to go into the hospital upkeep, hospital maintenance, as you know it. Us pe bhi bahut zabardast, but ultimately everybody is paying now 10 rupees or 5 rupees and going inside to see the patient. Unfortunately, that element of governance has been very lopsided in our case. In our case, it is only that a particular kind of a demand should be allowed and a particular kind of a demand should not be allowed. So, my point is that Kashmir is ready to be part of a change. अगर उसके लिए, if you needed an evidence for that this flood has given, the kind of eruption of camaraderie, eruption of valor, eruption of sympathy, and the willingness to stake your life for another person's life, that is the greatest evidence that we are not what we are branded as. So I think it would be a very great service to the idea of Kashmir if this institution documents and chronicles all those great stories, and then sifts chaff from the grain, and then comes up with a plan as to how this great energy of especially the youth could be used not just as a source of changing the image of Kashmir, but also making it a stakeholder in that change. Second is, when we talk of floods, we, as my friend said, somebody said, that we have to learn to live with tragedies like this, with disasters like this. We have to be prepared for this. For that, we will have to devise means कि कैसे हम, क्योंकि home is, in my opinion, the ultimate concept of safety that man has devised for himself. What has happened to Srinagar especially is that home has now become vulnerable. The feeling of safety has got subverted. कि अभी एक दिन बारिश आएगी, दूसरे दिन people will start thinking of running away. Sense of security has gone. How to revive that sense of security, which is very important. Not that we have a dearth of insecurities otherwise, but this has added another real-time insecurity into our lives, कि कब 2 दिन की बारिश आएगी और तीसरे दिन आपका सैलाब आ जाएगा. How we have to grapple that. One would perhaps, some part of it would lie with Iftikhar Saab, experts like him and experts with him, कि how to devise a life with floods, how to devise a house that actually causes least of damage and least of dislocation. It is not easy. As somebody suggested, no, हमने जी इनको रात को 10 बजे बोला आप घर से जाओ, बारिश बरस रही है, आप कहाँ जाएंगे उस वक्त? Do you have any safe places? You could not have gone. So, how to build those houses and where to build houses you have to build. Whether you build a big house or a small house, for a population which is increasing, for a population which is becoming more affluent, which affords more houses, उसके लिए तो houses आपको जगह देनी है, कहाँ जाएंगे आप? तो वो where to build those houses, that's very important. In my opinion, we'll have to go back to our grandfathers and try to locate those safe Purans. और उसमें मुझे जो एज एन ऑब्जर्वर जो बहुत अच्छा लगा है इन पिछले कुछ सालों में, ये जो फुट हिल्स पे बन रही हैं कॉलोनीज, लाइक यू हैव दीज कैंटोनमेंट्स, BSF का, दूसरे का, look how beautiful cities they have constructed. Why couldn't we have done this? Why is it our misfortune that our development, our urban development is not done by my great friend, but it's done by the Dral. It's done by the land broker who shows me the land, and then it becomes a fait accompli for me. So some government will have to think on this, on relocating, on reorienting the new bastis. I think that would be the most important thing if it can come out of these discussions. Third and final, I would not like to take much of time. This is for my friends from the SARC. Kashmir is like a green belt, not just for India, but it's a green belt for all of you. It is a source of water. It is an influence on environment. So all of you will have to study Kashmir to study its repercussions in your own countries. So I think that would give an entirely new dimension to what you study about Kashmir. And I think that would bring a more varied and perhaps a different kind of a scholarship to this institution and to studies on Kashmir. Its resource base could be widened, its elements could be widened. Ultimately, it's we who have to do it. On my land, I have to construct a house. I have to construct a building. I have to plan my roads. I have to plan my sanitation. So unless we do it, nobody else is going to do it for us. Unless that sense is invigorated by discussions like this, and I would hope that Institute of Kashmir Study would lead that process of revival of our the faith in ourselves. I think that would be the best thing that could ever happen. Thank you very much, Gul Saab. Thank you.
On issues connected to floods and their aftermath. And now I request Junaid Matu Saab, who is also a friend, a columnist.
With more sincerity, I think on issues like this, it is very important to speak as Kashmiris. And Professor Mani mentioned that there might have been some fair criticism or unfair criticism. So I'll just, take every point that I've absorbed and try to talk about that. I don't think any criticism is unfair. Criticism is just that, it is criticism. As long as it is received well, as long as the intentions of criticism are criticism. I have never believed in the term negative criticism. You don't need to categorize criticism. Criticism is critique, and whatever the intentions are, something can be drawn out of it. What possibly Professor Wani was referring to was a bias by omission. I don't have an academic background in journalism. I started writing as a hobby. I come from a banking background. But from whatever little I have read and known, I know of this technical phrase that I hope they teach in journalism schools called bias by omission. It's a very important thing to note. Since the day the floods hit, everybody was devastated. Everybody. It's ironic and funny at the same time, and it's tragic. Floods hit my house on the 2nd. The first floods, the flash floods that came because of the cloudburst in Nilnag. I live in Baghat. So I evacuated my family at midnight, around 5.5, 6 feet of water, and little did I know that the entire city will get inundated. So I shifted them to my uncle's, Mr. Shafi Pandit's place in Gugjibag, who lives right next to the barn. So I had to repeat a rescue operation 3 days later. In the course of those 10 days, I saw the presumably mightiest, most powerful people literally strewn by the wayside. I remember when I came out of Jawaharnagar on a trip, I saw colleagues, I saw Mr. Kafilur Rahman, literally thrown on a footpath and drying like a wet rug. I saw so many people that I knew crying, weeping, completely disconnected from every source of help. And at that point, I realized that in tragedies like this, as I said, you are a human being, a fallible, vulnerable human being. All systems evolved through a human exercise to govern are also vulnerable. Now, it is not my brief or intention to say that the government is vulnerable, so we don't hold it accountable. That is something that I have never done and will never do. But as I have said, and I will clearly state it, and I know there are friends in the media here, there has been a remarkable bias by omission, which I can go and prove, literally from report to report. You do a news feature, you do a report, you do one on health. Unless you get Dr. Salimur Rahman's remarks on the allegations, it's not a news report, it's an opinion piece. It is not a feature, it is an opinion piece. 90% of reports that were done lacked a cross-checking quote by the concerned department that was being criticized. But I don't want to get into that. What it did to me for the... I haven't written after the flood strike. I've written once to somehow convey my sense of probably disappointment in my own creed, people who write. I could not gather myself to sit in front of a computer and write after the floods that we have done a great job and this criticism is unfair. Frankly speaking, that was not an emotional or a psychological or a physiological priority at that point of time. I am in awe of people who could do that. I could not, I still have not been able to sit in front of a computer and write, and I will tell you why. The floods hit us on the 6th. On the 7th, after my family was out, I somehow arranged a boat and went into Jawaharnagar with a friend, Imran Nabi Dar. We met a Sardar family who had a very, miserable story to tell. They were weeping and they said that, I'm just trying to make this whole episode anecdotal, and then I'll get into the theory. And this gentleman who was a dentist told us that his father has stage 3 cancer and is in Magarmal Bagh. And we were actually headed to Jawaharnagar. So we somehow lifted him in the boat and went into Magarmal Bagh. 100, 200, 300 meters inside Magarmal Bagh. That was the time when flood waters were rushing from Jawaharnagar and Rajbagh towards the other parts of the city. There were literally flash floods. The roads had become gushing white water streams. Our boat capsized. I don't know how to swim. My friend knew how to swim, but we had life jackets, so eventually we were pulled out by locals and we went into Jawaharnagar. The house that collapsed, in which I think 13 or 14 people died, I literally saw that crumble piece by piece. And to say that nobody reached there is unfair. I saw the helplessness of 3 boats in that area not being able to go inside because of debris around that house. I saw those people crying. I saw them wailing. I saw people tossing infants from ledge to ledge. I have never in my life seen human suffering to that extent. Nothing about that human suffering was political. Nothing about that human suffering was remotely imaginable. And eventually after this whole thing ended, somewhere in my mind and heart, I officers, our police officers, our individual officers, down to the SHO's level, to work in isolation and take leadership roles. Leadership is tested when you work in isolation. You know, the thing that they teach us in boarding school, it's a prefectorial system, is that you work in isolation. Your leadership holds merit when you can work without any systems of support. When you say that I am in this area, these are my 10 men, I have no resources, and I have to command this operation, this micro operation in my area. Yes, I believe we will have to somehow, probably through institutions like this, come up with, research papers, or maybe through IMPA, and somehow train officers in extensive modules of crisis management. And I, again, don't make that point as the spokesperson of National Conference. I make that point as an observer. We will have to do that. The criticism of the evacuation plan, if we took this weather forecast lightly or not, I was not a part of those meetings. I don't speak on behalf of the government. I'm not privy to the detailed meetings of the government. But there are senior officers here who would tell you that, very honestly speaking, the sheer scale of this disaster was humanly unimaginable. Perhaps we also need to understand, let's ask every single question. Was there any negligence? Could something have been done in a better fashion? And we are all open to that. As a Kashmiri who holds his identity, his nation very dear to himself, I would want every single facet and institution and department of the government to be held accountable. That would give me immense pleasure. But at the same time, let us maintain a sense of balance. That is my only humble request. That is my only humble request. The floods have ravaged the state. There is absolutely no doubt about that. My friend Mr. Tanveer from ActionAid gave a very insightful address and spoke about this problem being multidimensional. This problem is multidimensional in how it is to be tackled. But this problem is also multidimensional in how it happened. A lot of views right now might criticize successive state governments. It is not that Bemina was built or encroachment happens in the last 5 years. It's unimaginable to think that 200, 300,000 houses which are supposedly in some sort of a violation of certain code happened in the last 5 years. No. It has happened in successive regimes. First, a point was mentioned very clearly. We need to depoliticize these aspects of governance. Same stands true for my party, same stands true for PDP. And now I'll talk a little about political parties. There are glaring examples everywhere in all political parties. I can name a dozen in People's Democratic Party. I'm sure they can name a dozen in National Conference, where somehow your political compulsions, which are not so avoidable to political parties, unfortunately, speaking in a real politic sense, probably have aided something that should not have happened. I mean, if, as a public representative, I call a government officer and tell him that, you've tried to demolish a structure here or something, why don't you go easy on this? When these things compound and mushroom from all political parties, what happens in the end? You have a big, massive monster of a problem in town development, town planning and urban development. That said, I would not completely exonerate our respected successive heads of department in town planning. And again, I speak as a Kashmiri. Since the last 4 years, I have written around 16 columns on the need to expedite a master plan. Now I understand that it should have been done, long portion, blame for that. Naeem Saab spoke about traditional wisdom, and traditional wisdom is very important. It is no rocket science to think comparatively and understand for a small period of time if Delhi had not expanded into Gurgaon and Noida and Faridabad. What would have happened to Delhi? Delhi would have self-destroyed. It would have self-consumed itself. Urban planning-wise, crime would have been, multifold. So the need for satellite townships is very important. We have Badgam on a slightly higher gradient. We have Pampore, right? And we have Ganderbal. And then we have small micro townships that we can have. And I presume the new town plan has taken this into scientific account in detail. I hope so. Preparedness for disasters is very important. The state disaster relief institution needs to be better equipped. We learn from disasters. We have learned from this disaster. We need to equip it better. That said, a state disaster relief agency cannot, it's unfathomable to think that it could have thousands of boats. It doesn't. Rescue operations on this scale and extent are the domain of the central government. Let us be amply clear about that. We talked about the food security bill. We have repeatedly spoken about the need for a food security bill. The disagreement probably in a political forum lies in if we allow the extension of the food security bill of the union into the state, and how you somehow have certain issues of the special status of the state there, as you had with the 73rd Amendment. Well, there is a way around for that. You make your own mirror reflection of the food security bill, make a better act. And I think that should happen in double speed. As far as ration distribution is concerned, let's get into tangibles. 35 kgs has been announced as free ration for 6 months. 2 months before this happened, 2 months before the flood struck us, we approached the central ministry a month before this happened, 2 months actually before this happened, to increase the allocation of ration to the state. Increase the pro rata or the entire collective quantum of subsidized ration that is allocated to the state. I think 2 submissions were made to the central government, and the amount that was after a certain period of time, I thought, there are certain different ways to say this. There are synonyms of sleeping. And slumber, that was also over-abused. I wouldn't say overused. So, a need to maintain a sense of balance. Not confuse our sense of patriotism with a misplaced sense of rebellious perspective. Let me not define my being a Kashmiri by my anger. Let me define it by my inherent will to contribute and not just criticize. That is of supreme importance. And I just want to mention this one point, that if we talk about systems of governance, and Professor Vani, probably I was invited to, and Naeem Saab was invited as representatives of political parties to speak about how political parties shape up systems of governance, and they do. They create systems of governance. They bring in legislation. Lawmaking is the primary responsibility of lawmakers. Discrediting systems of governance, ridiculing systems of governance, mocking at systems of governance, and on one extent saying that systems of governance are of no relevance, and on the other extent, holding them accountable to the highest standards of delivery. We need to somehow understand that how do you expect something to perform in an association with the people when you're trying to discredit its very existence? That is a fundamental question that we need to ask ourselves. We had one tragedy, we might, God forbid, have another tragedy. We have a political sentiment, we have a political issue, We have a clear demarcation of, I'll just conclude with that, of perspectives between the mainstream and the separatist polity, right? But then we have day-to-day issues. And we have repeatedly tried to make that point, that our aspirations need to be sifted from our grievances, the redressal of our grievances. So somehow we need to depoliticize institutions of governance. We need to look at the government of a state above partisan lines. We need to look at 4.5 lakh government employees above partisan lines. Their own homes were drowned. Dr. Salimur Rahman mentioned a few instances. I have so many other examples. So many other examples. I saw the superintending engineer of Srinagar municipality literally in the government, if we vote or do not vote, from participating in a political exercise. It accountable systematically, and we need to somehow participate in being, if there is a discussion, that would be all.
Sociological issues. So I think anyone who can raise head will also, in fact, keep in mind the time constraint that we have. Okay, Tariq sir.
Visual pictures, we could see that. And it doesn't, this is our problem basically, as Mr. Junaid was also referring to. You can start with that thing also, that this was the situation on 6th and 7th. This is the culture we live in. This is the commitment we have towards our profession or towards our society. And on 6th and 7th probably, and same was true about your children hospital. 2 hospitals which I saw on the visuals, visual media. And leaving that aside, do you have any plans, to shift? It looks very ugly and shabby when your hospitals drown. Not on the human scale, but the casualties, what will happen to the patients. It looks very shabby in a 21st century. Do you have any plans to shift some of these hospitals to somewhere where we can at least have some, at least have look towards that this doesn't look shabby, and if you struck another thing. Another question to town plan, sir. You have referred that I have been a town plan for 5 years or so. How many times this town plan of Srinagar has been abused and misused in your tenure? The town plan, master plan, what you call as master plan of Srinagar. Yeah, what you are, as a head of that particular institution, what are your remedies you are putting forward to the abuse of the master plan as a whole? And one thing to Mr. Tanveer, please leave these poverty figures and out-migration to later kind of research. My suggestion, humble submission will be to concentrate on the aid which is pouring in. Government, non-government agencies, reaches to the concerned people. Reaches to the people who are being devastated. Reaches to the concerned people. Thank you.
Whereas the constructions done in the last 2-3 years, particularly the forensic lab in Bemina, State Board of School Education, and the entire lane which is on the right side of bypass when you come from, say, Parimpura towards this, all these buildings are made, or these are government agencies, these are government institutions, and these are being done in flood-prone areas. So speaking about people not being allowed to construct or people actually taking law for a ride, what are the examples which you as a town tenant are setting up? Particularly, I mentioned the institutions. Yeah, second, Director of Health, sir. This was really wonderful to see that the peripheral hospitals worked under emergency situations. But my own observation is that we do not act, we only react as a society. And it was a reaction to a disaster that the peripheral hospitals worked and zero referrals to the city hospitals are there. But it's an open fact that the healthcare system of these city hospitals is in shambles on an average. City hospitals, I mean hospitals like Sora, I mean hospital SMHS and other hospitals. There is a huge, this is a general complaint that we have huge number of referrals from the sub-district hospitals, from the district hospitals. That makes life very, very tough for the doctors as well as for the patients who are being referred from the peripherals to this. But once the referrals came down to zero during this emergency period, why cannot we sustain it, or why could not it have been sustained in the past as well? Because this is something very positive which has come out of this particular flood. Then Tanveer Saab, since you are in ActionAid, I just wanted to be educated about the issue with respect to international aid coming to this particular part. Because there has been a huge debate in media that we have some restrictions are being imposed by the government of India on particular aid. I just wanted to be educated about the dynamics of this international aid and how much can we expect the permissible aid towards this system. Naeem Saab is not here. He was speaking about self-acquisition, so I will keep it to myself only. Then Junaid Saab was speaking about a sense of balance and sense of calmness, the disassociation between, say, what you call accountability and belief in an institution. When you believe in an institution, you can put it accountable. When you do not believe it, I got it that way. Maybe my getting it might be wrong. You tended to speak about a very tender issue. You try to draw a very fine line between a belief in an institution and only then making it accountable. But that is it. So first, I just need a clarification that till you do not believe in an institution, you do not have the right to hold this institution accountable. Is it that?
No.
Because I can only go.
Urban population, not the total population.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Urban
Population.
That's fine.
Percentage of urban.
That's fine.
Yes. So that is huge in many ways. So why don't we think in terms of the decentralization model? Like Junaid Saab has talked about the development of satellite towns. Isn't so? That could be one of the important aspects by which we are going to curb the over-urbanization process of Srinagar city itself. Because it has now encroached to what we call the emergency reservoirs, like the wetlands, which were in past used for just accommodating these excessive flood waters. So this is the second issue which I would like to raise with the town planning department as a head. I would like some reaction. And at the same time, I must admit that town planning has done also commendable work by just coming out with different. They look theoretically very sound, but the problem with the bureaucratic and political intervention.
Definitely.
That is the problem. I would like to have reactions from Junaid Azamutu. My other though Sulaiman Aman has given very commendable, I mean to say, these instances of healthcare during these situation is concerned. This is really appreciable. It is concerned. So do you think it is because of the obvious reasons you could not reach this bypass? You take Raksharana, Sirbagh, they have remained, I am a personal witness to this. So far as the situation is concerned, they have remained totally, so we must take I mean to say.
But what is going to help is that government health facilities will have to face a huge rush of patients because of this depression. So I would just request my director that please be prepared for this.
नाम खसरा ढूंढ रहा है और वो सनातन नाम खसरा जहाँ जहाँ इसके रास्ते थे वहीं जा रहा है. So taking the lessons from the history, possibly successive governments खाते खरगोश में रह गए. कहाँ पानी आएगा? क्योंकि इससे पहले पानी के बारे में बहुत ही शोरगुल हुआ था ड्रिंकिंग वाटर के बारे में. My question is that I'm a generally employed person, so because of lack of the government policies towards building the houses or colonies, our resources were sucked by this mafia of landowners. Hundreds of canals, 200 canals, 300 canals, 1%. That we have to build our houses. Where to build? That was the demand of that was the responsibility of the responsible government. So in future, there is not only the floods, but system. It's a system zone. We have to be careful. So there is a lot of responsibilities on stakeholders of the community.
See the reality of this situation. Last night I am in the village. They are given only 10% of this. They announced that we have given to free rice for 6 months.
On the TV, he said that our choppers are on standby. What was he waiting for actually? On the Rajbagh side, people were drowning. People were stuck on the 3rd story. But he said that choppers are on standby. What was he actually waiting for?
Distributing relief to those areas where there has been no flood at all. So at least those relief packages would have been given to them. It should have been a very systematic way done, the relief, these kind of things. Because those people are much, they need it more than the people who are not affected. So that is my simple observation.
Junaid talked about specifically with regard to an evacuation plan. I think more than an evacuation plan, the need is there for a comprehensive disaster management plan, which would include evacuation plans for different neighborhoods, which would include identifying safe spots, which would also, very importantly, include the relocation of existing disaster management